Welcome back to Pokemon Episode Summaries. Today, I'll be doing Episode 147, A Far-Fetched Tale. The episode begins with Ash and the gang walking through not a nameless forest this time, but Ilex Forest, meaning that Brock was able to use his map to guide them through it, since it was a popular forest. Misty doesn't think that Brock was capable of reading a map, so she assumes that they were lost, but Brock rebuttals that he successfully read a map plenty of times, as he puts on a fancy trench coat that he claimed was going to make him look cool and would help him guide Ash and Misty through the forest, much to Ash and Misty's confusion. Meanwhile, Team Rocket were in the forest too, and they were extremely starving. They spotted Ash and the gang walk by, though, and came to the conclusion that they could have food, so they chased after them. Ash and the gang then came across a trainer who was trying to train his Farfetch'd to learn some new moves, and commanded it to use Cutting Attack, and obviously, with this not being a real attack, Farfetch'd completely ignored this kid. Ash and the gang then come up to the kid, and inform him that he probably meant to say Cut Attack, not Cutting Attack. This causes the boy to get embarrassed, as he didn't like being watched, since he was completely failing. But he quickly tries to shrug off his embarrassment, as he does as Ash said, and commands the Farfetch'd to use Cut Attack instead of Cutting Attack. However, Farfetch'd still disobeys. This led the kid to get even more embarrassed, so he sat down with Brock, Misty, and Ash, and tried to defend himself by stating that he was a new trainer, so he didn't know the proper names for a whole bunch of attacks. He also reveals that his name was Sylvester, and clarifies that not only was he just a beginning trainer, but he had also just been given permission from his father to start training Farfetch'd. So him and Farfetch'd didn't really get along that well quite yet, so that was likely why Farfetch'd was so hesitant to do anything that Sylvester asked. After bringing up his father, he tells them more about him, saying that he was a charcoal purifier, and reveals that he wanted to be one as well, which was why he was training with Farfetch'd. Ash and the gang wanted to question what Farfetch'd had to do with charcoal purifying, but Misty and Ash didn't even know what charcoal purifying was, so this led Brock to explain it to them. Purifying charcoal was essentially burnt wood used for fuel that could also be used to purify water and air. Adding that this Ilex forest here was world famous for the purified charcoal, which was probably why Sylvester was here in the first place. Brock also adds, probably a bit unnecessarily, that he uses it for a recipe called Brock's Rock and Rice. And I don't know if Brock's ever made that one before, so has he ever actually used it? Who knows? After learning what purifying charcoal was, Ash and Misty finally asked Sylvester why Farfetch'd was so important in the process, with Sylvester revealing that he wanted to have Farfetch'd use its leek to cut the wood needed for the charcoal into perfect blocks, as the wood had to be cut absolutely perfectly if the purifying charcoal was going to be of good quality. Sylvester re-expressed his doubt that him and Farfetch'd would be able to work together properly, though, as Farfetch'd seemed to not like Sylvester whatsoever, since Sylvester was too much of a goddamn noob in comparison to his father. Further worrying that he would not be able to become a charcoal purifier if Farfetch'd wouldn't listen to him, since Farfetch'd wouldn't do any of its attacks necessary. Ash assures him, though, that Farfetch'd would eventually come around once they got to know each other a bit better, evidencing the fact that him and Pikachu used to not get along in the very beginning, but after many battles and many experiences, they had formed a bond more unbreakable than anything in the world. Further stating that the only way Sylvester wouldn't become a charcoal purifier was if he gave up. Sylvester becomes inspired by these words, and becomes determined to keep trying with Farfetch'd, and hope that they would eventually develop a bond like Ash and Pikachu's. The Farfetch'd was still doubtful of Sylvester, but it seemed to be willing to give him one more shot. As Farfetch'd and Sylvester set off, Ash and the gang managed to get out of the forest and to a nearby Pokemon Center, where Ash took the opportunity to call Professor Oak and inform him that he successfully managed to deliver the GS ball to Kurt in Azalea Town, and also tells Oak how Kurt gave him a lure ball, and how he managed to win a Hive Badge from Bugsy, essentially giving a recap of these past few episodes in case you missed him. Oak congratulates Ash on all this, but all of his Pokemon at the lab wanted to congratulate him too, so Muk, Kingler, Snorlax, and Tauros all come up to Oak and absolutely smother him in the process, congratulating Ash, although they accidentally end the call in the process. After the call ended, Ash went to sit down with Brock and Misty, as Brock was looking at his map, and revealed to Ash that the third Johto gym was located in Goldenrod City. Ash wanted to head there instantly, forgetting about Sylvester, but he was reminded of Sylvester when he came running into the Pokemon Center. He immediately revealed to Nurse Joy that his Farfetch'd had run away again after he had failed to say the correct attack names again. Nurse Joy simply sighs, and suggested that he go look for Farfetch'd at his father's house, revealing the fact that Farfetch'd had run there last time it had escaped. Which meant that the time that Ash and the gang stumbled upon Sylvester wasn't the first time that Farfetch'd had been disobedient. Sylvester wanted help to search in the forest instead, though, as he didn't want to go back to his house in fear that his father would be mad at him for losing his Farfetch'd. This led Ash to go up to Sylvester and promise him to join him on his journey to his house, and states that he would stop his father from doing anything too evil if he ended up getting mad. Sylvester was still a bit hesitant to go, though, so Ash added that if they truly didn't find Farfetch'd at Sylvester's house, then Ash would then accompany him into the forest to help him look, and once they found Farfetch'd, he would also use his Pikachu to help him and Farfetch'd train, stating that he would teach him the right names for all the moves. All of this was enough to entice Sylvester, and Ash and the gang joined him on his way back to his house, as they walked into Sylvester's father named Yosaku's workshop. When they arrived, Sylvester's father, sure enough, was working on making purifying charcoal with his Magmar at a hearth in his workshop. Sylvester then approaches his father nervously and explains to him that he had lost Farfetch'd. Just as Sylvester predicted, his father gets angry, calling him a bad trainer, and stating that if he really wanted to be the next generation charcoal purifier, then he had to learn how to handle Farfetch'd better, along with Magmar for that matter, who he hadn't even started to train yet. Honestly, I don't think Sylvester's father was that bad of a guy here. I mean, yeah, he was harsh, but he just wants his family legacy to continue, and his son was being a fucking idiot. Anyways, Ash jumps in and introduces himself as a Pokemon trainer, and defends Sylvester, saying that Yosaku shouldn't be trying to push his son so hard if he was trying his best, stating that Sylvester putting in the effort to try and carry on his father's legacy should be enough for him. It's not like he was just being a useless prick and freeloading, he was actually trying to do something. Explaining that Farfetch'd was really the one at fault, as Sylvester had been trying his best to order him to use the attacks, but Farfetch'd wouldn't listen. Yosaku rebuttals, though, that Sylvester simply ordering attacks was the problem, explaining that Farfetch'd probably saw Sylvester as being a bit lazy, as he was simply passing on all of the duties to Farfetch'd, stating that Sylvester and Farfetch'd should work together to cut all the wood. Further stating that if Ash truly was a Pokemon trainer, he should know that a Pokemon and trainer being equal and working as a team was the most important thing. He then suggests that a way that Sylvester could prove he wasn't lazy to the Farfetch'd was by actually trying to go out and find it, solidifying the fact that Farfetch'd hadn't come to the house after all, despite Nurse Joy's assumption. Ash and the gang and Sylvester then decide to go into the forest to look for it, like Sylvester had initially wanted to do. Meanwhile, Team Rocket was still walking through the forest, as tired and hungry as ever, when suddenly Meowth perked up when he smelled food, and led Team Rocket to a small shrine that had 2 dumplings on it, likely laid by a generous soul as an offering at the shrine. Unfortunately for James, Jesse and Meowth instantly ate them, not leaving any for him, much to his dismay, as he was still tired and hungry. Just then, none other than Farfetch'd walked out of a nearby bush, completely unaware of Team Rocket, fucking fuming mad at Sylvester still. Upon seeing the Farfetch'd, Team Rocket remembered how rare it was, and realized that they could sell it for a whole bunch of money, and therefore they could buy all the food they wanted, so they decided to corner the Farfetch'd, catching it off guard due to it still being pissed off by Sylvester. Meanwhile, Ash and the gang had arrived at the same shrine that Team Rocket had since left, which Sylvester reveals was dedicated to the rumored spirit that watches over the forest. Unbeknownst to us at the time, Celebi, but that's for later. Ash and the gang then stopped here to call out for Farfetch'd, hoping that it would come out, but unfortunately it didn't. Ash and the gang then decide to send out all their Pokemon to help track down Farfetch'd, with the exception of Misty's Goldeen and Staryu, of course, since there was no water nearby in the forest. Well, that was a fair excuse for Goldeen, but Staryu could go on land. I don't know why it wasn't here, but anyways, Brock soon had to remove his Pineco from the search as well, as it was about to self-destruct as soon as it was released from his Pokeball, so Brock instantly had to recall it. Unfortunately, Brock's Pineco wasn't the only Pokemon who was unable to help with the search, as all of Ash's Pokemon were too busy playing with each other. This led Misty to scold Ash for allowing his Pokemon to slack off like that and play with each other. However, Misty soon cut herself off when she realized that her Pokemon weren't really helping either, as Psyduck had managed to fall fast asleep on Poliwag's tail, leading Poliwag to not be doing anything either because it was so distracted. Thankfully, after Ash and Misty actually explained the situation to all their Pokemon, I don't know why they expected them to suddenly know what was going on as soon as they sent them out. But anyways, as soon as Ash and the gang explained the situation to their Pokemon, they instantly stopped messing around and agree to help, as Brock, Ash, and Misty all go in separate directions, so that they could cover more ground to look for the Farfetch'd, with Sylvester going with Ash, and everyone agreeing to meet back up in an hour's time to report on progress. Each of the 3 trainers are accompanied by their Pokemon as well, obviously. Meanwhile, back with Team Rocket and Farfetch'd, Team Rocket had not successfully managed to corner the Farfetch'd, as soon as it spotted them, it managed to fly up onto a tree branch. In an attempt to stop Team Rocket from climbing up and reaching him, the Farfetch'd then cut several smaller branches on the tree with its leak and caused them to fall on Team Rocket. All this did was annoy Team Rocket, though, as Jesse simply threw Meowth up to the tree. But before Meowth could grab onto the tree's log, the Farfetch'd hit him on the head with his leak, sending him back down and crashing into Jesse. Jessie was extremely angry by this point, so she sent out her Arbok and Lickitung to deal with the Farfetch'd, ordering her Arbok to use Poison Sting. However, Farfetch'd blocked it by using its leak. Arbok dived to steal the leak in anger, but it missed, since it couldn't reach up into the tree. Jessie then got an idea and ordered Lickitung to steal Farfetch'd leak by using its tongue, as it reached up with its long-ass tongue and grabbed it. It tried to keep it for itself, but Jessie stole it from it, not wanting Lickitung to break it or some shit. But anyways, why did Team Rocket take Farfetch'd leak, you may ask? Well, they knew that without its leak, it would become desperate, and it certainly did, as it began to run away in fear. Catching the panicking Farfetch'd off guard, Meowth proceeded to capture Farfetch'd in a net. As Team Rocket began walking away with the Farfetch'd in their hands, a starving James tried to eat the leak, but the leak was snatched out of his hands by both Jessie and Meowth, who explained to him that if they ate the leak, then Farfetch'd wouldn't have it, and therefore he would be worth less money when they sold him. James didn't care, as he was simply desperate to eat, but Meowth reminded him, with all the money that they were going to get from the Farfetch'd, they could get any food they wanted. Unbeknownst to Team Rocket, they were actually the ones being spied on this time by Ash's Heracross, who had been sent by Ash to go find Farfetch'd, and it in fact had. So, Heracross ran back to Ash to inform him that Team Rocket had captured it, leading Ash and Sylvester to find Team Rocket. As soon as they did, Team Rocket did their motto, stating their plan to sell Farfetch'd, but immediately realized that they shouldn't have been doing their motto and should have been focusing on escaping. So Jesse sent out Arbok and Lickitung, and with the help of Meowth, the three of their Pokemon kicked Sylvester, which in turn distracted Ash as he kneeled down to go to Sylvester's aid. So Team Rocket took the opportunity to begin escaping. However, only Ash and Sylvester were distracted, not Ash's Pokemon. So, Bulbasaur and Chikorita both used Razor Leafs to cut the net that Farfetch'd was trapped in, freeing it. Farfetch'd tries to run back to Sylvester, despite him and Sylvester not getting along, as he'd way rather be with Sylvester than be captured by Team Rocket. But before he can reach Sylvester, Lickitung grabs him with his tongue. Jesse then orders James to actually do something instead of just standing there, so James sends out his Victory Bell, who of course just eats him as usual, but he also sent out his Weezing, and had his Weezing use Sludge, which blinded all of Ash's Pokemon, as the attack was so widespread, making all of Ash's Pokemon unable to move. Arbok takes this as an opportunity to attack, as it fires its Poison Sting at all of Ash's disabled Pokemon, along with Ash and Sylvester. However, at the last second, right before the Poison Sting makes contact, Brock's Onix appears out of the ground and blocks the Poison Sting. Onix had been ordered by Brock to search for Farfetch'd underground, but once it heard the commotion, it had popped out to save the day. And Brock and Misty had spotted Onix pop out in the distance and immediately ran over to Ash's location with their other Pokemon. Misty then commanded her Poliwag to use Water Gun, which washed the sludge off of all of Ash's Pokemon. Yay! Weezing and Victory Bell then used Smokescreen and Razor Leaf respectively, with Victory Bell actually able to attack since it had stopped eating James. But with his Pokemon now able to see again, Ash was able to counter, having his Squirtle use Hydro Pump to blow away Weezing's smoke, along with Victory Bell's flimsy leaves. Ash then instructed all of his Pokemon to attack at once, as they all did a huge elemental attack. Sylvester watched this and questioned why Ash's Pokemon obeyed him so well, and Farfetch'd didn't, in utter amazement with Ash's skills. Brock and Misty then clarified the reason why, essentially echoing what Sylvester's father had been trying to explain, but in a much nicer manner. Essentially, the reason why Ash's Pokemon obeyed him was because they knew that Ash wasn't lazy and had developed a bond with him beyond just ordering them attacks. This causes Sylvester to finally realize that if he focused on bonding with his Farfetch'd through doing things other than training and actually became its friend, then Farfetch'd would probably be more willing to do some work. Anyways, after that huge group attack, Heracross then went on its own and tackled Team Rocket, causing Jesse to drop the leek and it to go flying up into the air. Jesse went to retrieve it, but when Sylvester saw the leek in the air, he went to go grab it as well, and he was successful, grabbing it before Jesse did. Farfetch'd sees this and is impressed that Sylvester would have attempted such a risky jump like that just to save his leek. Was this a bond starting to form between them? Anyways, Sylvester then threw Farfetch'd's leek back to it, allowing it to free itself from Lickitung's grasp by using a peck attack. With Farfetch'd having escaped, Team Rocket panics and they attempt to jump on the Farfetch'd. And in an attempt to save the Farfetch'd, Sylvester orders it to use Fury Attack and Fury Swipes. Due to Farfetch'd and Sylvester having a bond now, Farfetch'd actually listened and used those attacks to knock Team Rocket to the ground. The Farfetch'd still wasn't happy though. It wanted to make sure that Team Rocket was absolutely pummeled before it was done with them, as revenge. So, Sylvester successfully ordered Farfetch'd to use Cut to cut down 2 trees that were in front of Team Rocket's path, rendering them unable to escape as well. With Team Rocket both severely injured and trapped, Pikachu took the opportunity to deal the final blow, sending Team Rocket blasting off with a Thunderbolt. With Team Rocket gone, Ash congratulates Sylvester for actually getting Farfetch'd to obey him and use Cut, the move that he needed to cut the logs for the charcoal. Brock and Misty also complimented Sylvester on achieving a bond with his Pokemon that could perhaps one day rival Ash and Pikachu's. Since Farfetch'd obeyed Sylvester now, Sylvester commanded him to use Cut to cut the logs of one of the nearby trees. Farfetch'd initially doesn't respond, which causes Sylvester to become confused, but it was revealed that Farfetch'd was only concentrating, kind of meditating, to get ready for the cut that it was about to do, as it proceeded to cut the log into perfect shaped blocks, the most ideal ones for purifying charcoal. Sylvester and Farfetch'd had done it! Let's go! Ash and the gang and Sylvester then return to Sylvester's house, and Sylvester informs his father that he successfully managed to cut perfectly shaped blocks for charcoal, and explaining how he did so. Sylvester's father is immensely excited by this, stating that he was proud of his son for actually forming a bond with Farfetch'd. Ash and the gang then say goodbye to Sylvester and his dad as they continue on their journey to Goldenrod City for Ash's 3rd gym battle, but not before Sylvester's dad gives them some purifying charcoal as a thank you gift for helping Sylvester. Much to Brock's joy. He better make Brock's Rock and Rice now.